I know you're gonna dig this.
And he'd hold up his bass with these luminescent green strings on it. Very dramatic guy. And he says, look up here. He goes, this is real music, no computers, you know, and really letting the younger folks know that, hey, you know, check this out. We're doing this without any electronics, no backup vocals, recorded vocals, no computers, no sequencers, things like that. So, and as to your question, Ryan, about why do we do this? First of all, it has to be great music. Bootsy's music was great music, period. You know, is really, I consider him a musical genius, flat out. The stuff that he came up with back in the 70s and even more recently, it's great music. It's got Fred Wesley from James Brown's band who wrote the horn parts. And as a horn player, that's what made it so much fun for me. These horn parts, you're not standing around, you're playing, you're active all the time. And so that's a lot of fun. So it was great music, great parts, and for me that's why it was fun to go out there, plus the crowds, as you mentioned, and we saw some great crowds in those 4 years. I think one of them was near 100,000 people over in the Netherlands. It was a festival.
Must
was
have
at
been a football field, or a football stadium, or soccer
It was
soccer
just
stadium,
a
probably.
huge
Right.
field, yeah, and I've never seen so many people like that, and I had to go out on a runway and play a solo. That was the only time I was nervous in the 4 years, but that one got me a little bit. It's like, wow, this is a lot of people. I better get it right, you know.
Stories like that is what was the reason why we need a funk Hall of Fame. Sorry about that, because something like that is very interesting, and just to see, or rather, just to transform a child to plan those kind of instruments, what you had just described, it's exciting. Yeah. I'm just glad to be a presenter. I say a presenter because I was presenting the music of funk on radio, but yet also taking participation in the music video with Zapp and Roger. Roger's last music video. He redid Stevie Wonder's song. That, and also LaBelle, or Patti LaBelle. She did The Right Kind of Lover, that one, and also the fact that Keith Sweat did Just a Touch of Love from Slave, Dayton owned Slave. And I got a chance to be part of that movement of presenting funk in a different era.
Do you play instrument, Mark?
My voice is the instrument.
There you go. Your voice is an orchestra.
There you go. On the one.
You know, getting back to that, talking about the gentleman that did the solo and how he talks to the audience about the music, that's, you know, that doesn't sound like a lot, but that's powerful because they haven't thought about it. You know, a lot of the millennials have grown up with everything being technologically there. And to think that, you know, sit up there and look and say, wow, there isn't all of this.
No.
This is real music.
Real music, that's it.
And you know, in certain times that it's like a reason why I like my old music is because it's real music. You get to hear the instruments. And that's how artists back in those days developed their character. You know, you could tell. So, oh, that's so and so. I know that. And that's how they play because they played on that. And then another thing that always fascinates me, especially as a prime funk musician, you all can interchange. I mean, here you two guys, you're going to do your Son Millennial, and you'll probably get Randy to play something on there, and then Randy will do something, and he'll call Keith and say, Keith, you come and do that. And because of y'all your common goal of having a Bootsy Collins there is that you can do that. And that's the one thing that's always fascinated me, especially among funk musicians, how now I don't think people realize that funk musicians, most of them have such a wide range of music experience, but have landed and concentrated in the funk area. I mean, I'm just listening to you, I'm listening to you, and reading about you, and
well,
seeing.
I think Fred Wesley's a great example of that. I mean, Fred being with James Brown, being his musical director for a number of years, and a great trombone player, great arranger. Keith and I have both done sessions down at Bootsy's where Fred has written the horn parts and more or less run the sessions. But you go on YouTube and you can find videos of Fred playing jazz. There's one where he's playing Body and Soul with a guitar player. It's just the two of them, and it's just so beautiful. And so you talk about the breadth of styles that musicians can play. Sometimes they can do a lot more than one thing. Fred is a great example of that.
But is it not, if you are a musician, you are a musician, and it's just about the genre that you're playing at the time? I mean, if you've been trained as a bass guitarist, you can play that bass guitar for funk, and then you can read the music for, I don't know, rock and roll.
Not everybody can do that.
What is the?
Yeah.
How do you not?
I have a friend, C.C. Thomas, and Keith knows C.C. too. He's a great bass player from Cincinnati who's now Diana Ross's musical director in L.A. And he moved out to L.A. about, I think, 15 years ago. And one thing he told me, and that I've heard from other people too, is that in Los Angeles, you get typecast, just like you do in acting. You get typecast as a musician, and sometimes that's fair and sometimes it's not fair. But in the cases where it's fair, it's because a guy may be able to play great funk bass, but he doesn't know jazz standards and he doesn't know that language. Or some guy has the right feel for rock and roll, but he doesn't have the right feel for funk or R&B. Or a guy's a pop bass player, he can do that, but he can't play jazz or he can't play funk. So there are differences. Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, what is the difference, for instance, with the bass? If I'm playing funk and then I switch over to jazz, what do I do differently with my fingers or with my?
I'm going to quote Quincy Jones because they ask him, "What's your best piece of advice for young musicians?" And he said, "I can tell you in one word: feel."
Right.
And that is something that if you have to talk about it, it's probably not going to happen. Okay. So people have a certain feel. Some guys can cross over a lot of different boundaries, and some people are just really, really great, but just at one thing. So you have to find that niche for you, and if you're a band leader, you got to find the right musicians to play your music.
And it's the feeling, like you stated before, because when I was in radio, I can play rock, pop, funk, jazz, and mix it together in a danceable form to where you're still tuned in and grooving. You got that, quote, feeling. So it's like
that requires
feel.
understanding of feel too, knowing what tune should follow the tune that
Right,
you just
the
played.
beats per minute and so forth.
And is that with a format though? Because isn't most of that formatted in radio?
See, that's where the pigeon toe comes in, and where I, along with others, and I looked at your program in the past and heard others speak the same thing, where we broke the format. True, we're given a printout of you play 1 through 10 music, but yet that's not the good feeling. One song does not flow with the next. You can't go from a high up-tempo song to a drop down real low, and then something. You're going to lose the listener. You go with the feel. How do you feel? How is it outside? Is it sunny outside? Is it raining outside? You play with the groove, with the feel. That's how I was able to administrate the music and come across with my career in radio. Case in point, when I was in 93 FM WZAK in Cleveland, I did the For Lovers Only show at times, and yet it depends on if it was snowing outside, because that's the snow belt there, because of the lake effect. I would play certain music depending on the groove, the feel. It didn't matter what type of person or rather labeling of the music it was. I played all kinds of music. It's the feeling.
Was this sort of like a Quiet Storm kind of?
Correct.
So you were playing.
But I did all kinds though. But I'm just giving that as an example, But my thing was mainly up tempo, of course.
Yeah, that's one of the things a lot of even musicians don't understand. I mean, I've been musical director for a long time, back with Son, Bootsy, and sonic boom.
Yeah, right.
And you know, you work with musicians and you try to get them to understand. If you have to try too hard, you know, you really know, well, this guy doesn't get it. It's not going to work, you know. And but that's what, like Randy and I, you know, we get along really well together because we understand. You know, he understands music. I understand music. You know. He's come into my recording studio. We work together. He's brought music down. We've done his stuff. You know, he's done my stuff, and I don't have to say anything to Randy. You know, it's like you put the track on. Hey, do your thing. You know, and but you find a lot of people, musicians, that really don't understand. They can be really good musicians. I can't play every kind of music. You see, Randy is really good in jazz. Excellent jazz pianist. A lot of people don't know Randy's an excellent pianist, but he's also a great saxophonist. I'm not a jazz guitarist.
So
Now,
let's ask Randy, and let's ask you, why is it that you can make the switch to jazz, between jazz and funk, and you say you cannot, but is it because you don't want to? You have the musical ability to do such,
well,
but
I mean,
it's just not in your head.
I've played with jazz musicians, but you know, the guys that I have played with, I will let them know, you know, I'm a funk guitar player.
What do you do differently? See, is it just, it's in your head?
It's,
Is
no,
it just,
it's
is it in your fingers or is it in your head?
both.
It's the feeling. I see what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
Right.
I think I can shed a little light on that too. It's the language too. One of the things about jazz
Good point.
that separates it from rock, pop, funk is the harmony. The harmonies are more complex, and so, you know, if you can picture a piano, you know, you've got like from C to the next C, that's an octave, and then from this C to this C. Well, rock and pop and funk generally deal with just one octave, but jazz deals with 2 octaves. So if you played every other note all the way up, you've got, let's see, you could have a lot more notes in a chord than you can in 1 octave. So jazz, this is what Charlie Parker brought, and Dizzy Gillespie and the whole bebop era, they played in that upper octave, you know, in that 2nd octave, the 9th, the 11th, the 13th, and then alterations of those notes, you know. So you're dealing with a lot more note choices, a lot more complexity in the harmony. That's the main difference between jazz and funk and rock and pop. It's just a little more involved harmonically. That's the main difference.
Now, Randy, you gave us a great illustration of On the One. Give us a true illustration of which, because there are people who are going to be watching this who are not musicians, who are interested in what's happening with the Funk Museum. So as you gave us that, give us a little bit more of that to explain those octaves.
Well, if you, like I said, if you picture a piano keyboard, and if you can find middle C,
which is boom.
Right in the middle, right? And then on up, you know, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. There's the next C, right? Yeah, so nice. Sounds good. And then you start from that C and you go to the next C, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. You're dealing with, what is that? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C. So it's 16 notes, right? In pop and funk and rock, in country, you generally only deal with triads and 7th chords for musicians out there. In jazz, you're dealing with the notes in that 2nd octave. So you'd say in a chord, you'd have a C, an E, a G, a B flat, a D, an F sharp, and an A. A lot more complexity than you usually hear in rock and pop and funk. So that's the main difference. And then, of course, it's learning the repertoire. You know, jazz musicians, if you know about 30 or 40 standards, you know, the old Cole Porter, George Gershwin tunes like that, then you can go to a jam session anywhere in the world and sit in, and without a rehearsal, you can play that music because everybody knows those songs. They're the standards, you know, and if you know 100 of them, then you're really set, you know. But some funk players, may not know those standards. And this, if I can speak for Keith, you don't spend time on those tunes necessarily that a lot of jazz players spend time on. You're working on your stuff and your original stuff and Bootsy stuff and Sun stuff and maybe the standard R&B tunes and things like that. But jazz musicians just have a different library of music that they're learning and that they get under their fingers, and then it's the language, how to play over those complex harmonies. Now rhythmically, it's not that different because funk music is you got the beat, which is a straight beat, a straight rock beat or a pop beat or whatever you want to call it. Jazz, sometimes you have swing, but sometimes we had swing a little bit in Bootsy's music sometimes too. So it's not so much the rhythm as it is the harmony that makes the difference.
Rhythm versus harmony.
Yeah, yeah.
That's something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, one part of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center is to have an educational component. And I was thinking about, wow, I would like to have seen a video of you were in the Netherlands that you had, what, 100?
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, 200,000. Well, something like that would be in the Hall of Fame and the exhibition center where the kids could have education, where you could go one place and say, what does it look like or feel? What kind of sound music do you make when you're playing for like 200,000 people?
Well, hopefully it's good because you got a lot of witnesses there.
But and then just think that you guys came through to evolve. Remember, when James Brown, there wasn't really no amplifiers. I mean, they just had to play and play loud,
right,
for the group. And so, you've watched the amplifiers come where you can take that music and project it.
Well, sound systems have gotten better, but
that's what I was looking for.
That's true. And in venues like that where there are 100,000 people, obviously they have to have a great PA. But they really did. They did. Oh. Yeah. They did use amplification. With James Brown, Bootsy was playing through an amp, Catfish was playing through an amp, and obviously James Brown's singing on a mic. But you're right. It's definitely gotten better. Sound has gotten better. Sound reinforcement's gotten better over the years.
Now, did they have on, you're going to make me go and look this up on the YouTube, because this fascinates me, the 200,000 people.
It was about 100,000. It was between 80, 90, 100,000, something like that.
You got to embellish the story.
Okay.
I think we need to stick with the facts, ma'am.
It was
This is Dragnet. Okay.
It was actually 3 million people there that day. It's 3 million. No, I'm kidding.
No.
But to think that you walk out on the stage and you look out there, it probably was a nice day, correct?
Yeah.
A sea of people.
And you see a sea.
It was.
You see an ocean of people.
Yeah.
And you're saying, oh my goodness, am I going to be able to funk it today? Because they have come here for the funk.
Right. That's right.
And you think about it, I can imagine what would be going through your mind. Just another curiosity. When you go to all these different countries, I just heard you, Keith, say, as a matter of fact, I've traveled the world several. Did you ever? In fact,
it's nothing new to you.
Well, no,
Right.
but let me ask a question. I know you've been to all these places, but did you ever get to visit the places that you were there?
That's the problem. Even back when I was with Sun, you're in and out so fast, you don't get a chance to enjoy it. Sometimes after the show, you right back to the airport, or back to the bus. So I always told myself, when this is over, I'm going to actually get out and enjoy this for a change.
Right.
But it's still going on. And
well, can you think of which city you like the best internationally?
Wow.
Maybe via airport.
we did this one show in Vienne. Remember that?
Yeah.
And where, please?
Vienne.
Vienne, France.
And that we were with Larry Graham. And this place, it was so.
It was a 2,200-year-old Roman amphitheater, like a ruin.
And it was built into the mountain.
Yeah.
And this thing went straight up.
Yeah.
And I remember when we walked out on the stage, I just looked.
There were 10,000 people there, and they had them lit up. They had the audience lit up in lavender. It was unbelievable, and it was
So if you go online, you look at, all you got to type in Bootsy Collins, Vienne.
Is that the south of France?
And
Is that near Paris?
Is that B-I-E-N?
Vienne. It's not Vienna now, Austria. But Vienne.
I never heard of that.
I hadn't either.
South of
Yeah,
France.
it's so beautiful. It's just absolutely
And
beautiful.
those are the places that you don't hear about.
Yeah, and these countries, I mean, they really appreciate American music more so than we do our own music. And I think that's why a lot of American groups go abroad.
Yeah.
You know, and,
That started happening with jazz players back in the 60s. Dexter Gordon going over to Sweden. Dayton's own Tim Hagen's great jazz trumpet player going to Copenhagen and living over there and working with the Danish radio orchestra and all that. So yeah, European audiences, they love it. Yeah. Vienna was beautiful. My favorite was Montreux, Switzerland. It was so beautiful.
Okay, that was nice.
Now
it
Keith
was
remembers.
nice, yeah.
Oh yeah, Montrose, yeah.
Only thing is, you can't find a McDonald's, man.
No.
Well, you don't want a McDonald's.
He found the McDonald's. He always found the McDonald's.
Yeah, I gotta find a McDonald's or Burger King.
You know, this is so exciting.
That was a commercial.
But maybe you can follow up with them and have them help fund us. Help fund our initiative for the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center, since you like Burger King.
He likes McDonald's.
Likes McDonald's.
Well, European food scares me.
Right.
Because with all the countries we've gone to, I still have yet to find food that I can actually eat because they don't cook their food the way we do.
You mean with two hands like this, with bread and some meat in between, as opposed to a spoon and a fork.
Yeah, exactly.
So because when we're talking about the funk, the exhibition Funk Center, it's one of those things that I think people are hungry for it.
They are.
And you have to give. You got to give David Webb credit. I mean, he lives and breathes the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center. I mean, he lives and breathes, and he wants you to do it too.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think that's why you're here, Randy. You're here, Keith. You're here, Mark. And I know that's how we got Marsha here to help with this. And that's what it takes to do anything. And I guess it's that passion. And if you have the passion and the spirit for it, it carries over to others. Even if you don't want to, you see somebody out here pushing it, trying to make it happen. You're going to say, "Oh, well, if they can do it, okay, I'm going to help. I'm going to help. I'm going to help do that." And having you here is a testimony to how important it is to establish the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center, and I just wanted to say that, and thank you, because one of the things is what we do today is leaving a legacy for tomorrow, and we owe this to the funksters.
If you took the Dayton bands out of funk history, there'd be a huge gap there.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it would.
There would be a hole.
Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't exist at all.
A massive hole.
That's right.
And that's something for us to have a lot of pride,
Absolutely.
Because in fact, it may not be much of anything if you took the Dayton folks out.
True. Yeah, so it's
And
for
we
sure.
talk about that all the time. We just talk about the legacy that Dayton people and the Dayton area people have left. I mean, we're going to pull Cincinnati in on that too. We're talking Bootsy, of course. We're talking Roger and Zapp, because their hometown actually is Hamilton, outside of Cincinnati. But Dayton claims them now, and they claim Dayton, of course. And his son, Lakeside, Slave. And then again, Heat Wave, and then again by himself, Steve Arrington, Fazo, when he left the group and just started recording on his own.
Dayton.
Yes, Dayton.
That's right, Dayton, that's right.
And I always like to bring in Platypus. I love to bring in Platypus.
Oh,
Platypus
yeah,
is a great
Platypus.
group.
New
My
Horizon.
brother used to play with Platypus.
Okay.
Yeah. I had mentioned this to Bootsy once before, about putting together an Ohio Funk Fest featuring all the Ohio groups. This was a few years ago when I did that. I said, Bootsy's got so much on his mind and everything. And who else was down? Peter Frampton.
Yeah.
Oh, he's from Cincinnati. That's
Yeah,
right.
he's out
That's
there in
right.
Blue Ash, I believe, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think something like that really needs to be done because it's never been done before. You know, you have your Legends of Funk tour and the Masters of Funk tour and that type of thing.
Right.
But there's never been an Ohio Funk Fest, something that can be put on at a big venue, like at a, I don't know, outdoor venue.
I think
or
it
a
should be
Woodstock
held
type
in
of thing.
Dayton somewhere.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know. That's where it will be held because it's massive. We have a
Maybe,
new music center up in Huber Heights. We have it would depend on how many people you're looking for, and if it should be a field a la Woodstock.
Right.
You know, and that's not a fancy amphitheater or anything.
Just think, folks, listen, you're hearing it here first.
Yeah.
The makings.
Yeah, the Rose Center is a fantastic place. My friend, and Keith knows him too, Odine Mays, is from this area, is playing with the Temptations right now. So we went out and saw him when they were there. That is a great place to see a concert. And then you've got Island Park right over here. If you want a field, there's a field.
Well, that's what a lot of funk
so-
artists really was broadcasting their music back in the days. You remember back in the 70s and all, where, not go further than that, McKay Park. That's where a lot of the Ohio Players, Slave, Lakeside were playing music nonstop concerts every Sunday.
Oh my. And they were free.
Is it McKay Park or McCall? Over by Lakeview. It's a park in that area.
This is the native Daytonian.
Right off
I'm
McLin
a
Boulevard,
transplant.
the 35 on the left-hand side. There's a park, Ohio Players,
Oh, it was
Slave.
McCabe, and there was also Mallory.
Mallory, there you go. That's
Mallory
it.
Park.
Right, all the funk bands of Dayton were playing there back in the days. Free. Just get your family going out there.
And we need to get back to that. We really do. We need to get back to just exposing everybody to music. You know, music is such a soothing thing.
He's a savage beast.
Oh, yeah, that's what they say. Well, okay, it's almost time for us to call it an end of a show. So, Mark, would you have some closing comments you'd like to make?
Well, I'd like to thank David Webb, of course, for spearheading and to starting out the Funk Center. And the Funk Center will become a vision into reality, just like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland did. It would host more of the funketeers or funksters from Dayton and abroad.
Okay.
It's a worldwide situation when it comes to funk.
Keith?
Keith?
I'd like to thank David Webb also, and I just want to say to everyone, we got to keep funk alive. You know, got to. And that pretty much sums it up for me.
That's a good one.
Yeah, well, I've got to thank David too. I just met him a couple weeks ago, but he's obviously a great person, a lot of energy, and wish him the best, and thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us today.
And don't forget, we heard it first here, having a, national funk festival.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
now,
I like that. I like that.
I like it.
Okay.
And sun is coming.
That's right.
Yeah. And Sun Millennial.
Sun is here.
Sun Millennial.
Sun is here.
Well, this is Rhine McLin and Marsha Bonhart, co-hosts of the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center's award-winning show, Funk Chronicles. Until next time, keep it funky.
Thank you.